Okay, let's pretend this is your quilt. All your vertical and your horizontal sashing is done, and all you got to do now is put binding around the side. So the first thing you would do is measure your quilt. So the total sum of all the four sides, and then add 12 more inches, because that's how much you've got to make in binding. So I have already cut what that block needs. It's a bit more because I've just done width of fabric. I've already cut off the selvage of 2. So what you would do then is you just cut the selvage off, because you don't want any selvage in any of your work. So what we're going to do is, this is your binding. It's at the moment it's 2.5 inches, which is a jelly roll, but they're all separate. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the machine, we're going to put right sides together, and we're going to sew 1/4 inch seam. So here we are at my machine. I'm going to put those right sides together, and I'm going to begin to make a continuous length of binding. This is only short. This is only 3 widths of fabric because it's only a block. You will have to join probably about 6 or 7 because depending on your quilt, but I would guesstimate about 6. But you will calculate that because everybody's seam allowances are different. So, okay. What we will do then is go back over to my ironing station. So here we are. I've sewn these 3 widths of fabric together, and now I'm going to iron it in half. So all the way along its length. When you get to this, finger press it down and then fold it over so it's matching, and continue to iron it in half till you get to the end, and that will give you a continuous binding. Again, I will repeat that you will have a lot longer piece than me because you will be putting the binding on the entire quilt. So there we go. Let's have a look at that. So there's my continuous binding there in half. And now we'll go back over to the sewing machine to show how to add it to your quilt. Right, here we are. I'm now going to add this binding to the quilt. Leave a tail, please, of about 6 inches. This is a tail, so I'm going to start sewing from here. And again, I'm going to use 1/4 inch. I'm using my 1/4 inch quilt infoot, as you can see. So I am going to start there and just sew all the way around. However, it's getting now to the corners. So let's get to the first corner. I'll show you 2. And again, I'm stopping and starting. Now then, when you get to the corner, I always mark 1/4 inch. So I'm going to get roughly to there. And then I'm going to look here and just mark it there. That's how I do it. So I'm going to sew down to there. And when I get to my mark, I'm going to come off. I'm then going to turn the corner round. So that's what I've sewn up to. I am now, this is the important part, going to fold that up until my raw edges are in line here, and I've got a nice 45-degree angle there. I'm going to pull this down now, again keeping an eye on my raw edges and keeping an eye on my 45-degree angle. Now underneath there I can feel where that seam is, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to feel that there, and I'm going to start sewing my 1/4 inch from there. I'm going to come down a bit more. I'm going to stop for a moment. I wouldn't normally, but I'm going to stop just to show you how that will work. So it'll go over there, look. When you hem it, it'll create a mitered corner on the back and on the front. So that is what you do. What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you one more corner. I have to say, I have to put my quilting gloves on. I don't feel like I have enough grip otherwise. So I'm going to start that bit again and show you the corner one more time, and then I'll finish it off and show you the end. Again, I'm going to eyeball this now roughly. I mean, you can use a ruler, but I've been doing this for so long now, I just kind of know. So I'm going to get up to my line, go slow, 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 slow. If you go past it, you can always unpick it. It's not the end of the world. So come off, turn 45 degrees, fold that up, and I'm making sure my raw edges are lined up, and I've got a nice 45-degree angle, and I'm coming down and making sure that is there, feeling there for my angle, and I'm going to start sewing from there. Put my glove back on, and I'm going to do the other 3 corners, and then I'll come back and show you how to connect the 2 ends. Okay, so I've got the original tail I left, and I've got a longer tail here. Place one of the tails, it doesn't really matter which one, and place it over the other. What you're looking at here is about a 1/4 inch overlap. If I cut there, it's going to be short, so don't do your overlap, your line there. You want to make sure that they overlap. So what you've got there now is a cut line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut there now. And I know that I've got enough fabric, both sides, to seam that with a 1/4 inch. So what you do next is you are going to put the right sides together, and because of the tails, they're more manageable. So we're going to put those 2 together. Now, what most people, including me often, is they would put a pin in there just to keep that seam right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew those 2 right sides together, a 1/4 inch seam. So take that off, and when you do that, finger press that seam, new seam open, fold it over, line it all up, and because I measured it accurately with a 1/4 inch, we now go from where I finished off, overlap a little bit, guys, just to secure it, and then go all the way down until you meet where you started. Go over that edge a little bit as well, just to completely secure it, and that's that. So now I've sewn it all the way around, look, with all of my mitered corners nicely shaping. All I need to show you now is what to do at the back. Okay, this is what I would do. I would hand sew, even though I know a lot of you don't like hand sewing. So what I would do at this point is I would fold that over and I would clip. This is where I always use clips. So I would clip that, I would turn it round and clip around the corner and then deal with the corner. So I would go down and then create that nice mitre. Look at that mitre there now. That will be on, that's the back and the front. Okay, so what I would do now is slip stitch this all the way around in, and you always hand sew in the colour of the binding. So I wouldn't use cream, I would use that colour, because I would go in deeply there. I would go in there so you wouldn't see where the needle was going, and I would come up on the green. So that's the only place you would see any tiny bit of cotton. So that's why it always has to match the binding. However, for those of you who are now starting to cry at the thought of hand sewing, what you could do is you could do the same thing, but you could just literally top stitch, okay? Top stitch all the way around, and I will show you what you would get then. So you get to the corner, make sure you go over that bit. What you would get, however, let me just show you that. So that looks neat on that side, but it does, well, this is why I don't like doing it. It's because you see it and it's really hard to stitch in the ditch. So what I'm going to show you next is how to do it in reverse so that you don't have this top stitch on the wrong side. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you next. The way I've just done it, I would strongly suggest you hand sew it. So again now, so if you don't want to do it the way I do it, which is the hand sewing on the front, on the right side, and hand sewing on the back, you reverse it basically. So you flip this over, all the same rules apply. You put this raw edges together and you start about 6 inches or so, so you've got that little tail. You get to the corner and it's the same, 1/4 of an inch. You do the same thing exactly. 1/4 of an inch. Turn it round, 45-degree, raw edges matching down, and feel for, there it is, and down. I'm not going to go all the way around this time, but when you get to the other end, don't forget to leave another tail. So what you do this time is now you're going to turn it around and you're going to bring it the other way. So now what we've got is we've got that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that over, get my nice mitered corner there, look. Get that there. Get that there. And there. Let's pretend we've all gone all the way around. So what you're doing this time is you are now top stitching with your machine, but exactly where you want it to be, so neatly. Again, you would have it in a colour that would match this, or contrast it but in a nice way other than white. Maybe you'd like to pick the yellow. I might have picked the yellow out for the highlight, for the accent. I don't know. Anyway, so what we're going to do now is we're going to come to the corner, which I creased, turn it round and down the other side. And what you've got this time is you've got a neat top stitch on the right side, and it doesn't matter on the back side there, because if it's the same colour as that, so you wouldn't even notice it. So that's what you do if you don't want it hand sew. And that's it, ladies. Thank you very much.